Chapter 7 of The Tree Dwellers by Katherine Elizabeth Dopp. Recorded for LibriVox.org. Things to Think About. There were a great many wild cattle when the Tree Dwellers lived. They were not so gentle as our cattle. They had wide spreading horns. The fierce flesh-eating animals were always lying in wait for them. How could the wild cattle protect themselves from their enemies? Where would they stay during the day? Where would they go at night? Why did they stay in herds? Where could they find water? What kind of banks does a river have at the drinking places? Do you think the cattle would make paths to the drinking places? How? What happened when the wild cattle went to the river? The sun was just setting. Sharptooth was getting ready for the night. She was in the old oak tree. The baby had gone to sleep. As she put him down upon his bed, she heard the mooing of the wild cattle. She looked out upon the hills. The wild cattle were coming down to the river to drink. She watched the long line winding down the trail. Other creatures were watching too. Wild animals were coming out of their dens. A big bear passed close to Sharptooth's tree. He had heard the mooing of the wild cattle. Wolves were prowling about. They, too, were watching the herd. The cattle reached the river. They waded out. They drank from the flowing stream. They stood knee-deep in the cool water. At last the leader turned to go. The others followed one by one. But some of the weaker ones lingered behind. They seemed tired. A big wolf watched them from a thicket. At length the cattle came out of the stream. They walked slowly along the bank. They passed close to the thicket. The wolf sprang from his hiding place. He seized the smallest creature. The others dashed off through the underbrush. They were too frightened to keep the path. They lost their way. Wolves and bears were lying in wait. They fell upon the frightened cattle. The herd was too far away to help. So the poor creatures lost their lives. But the wolves and bears had a feast. Things to do. Model the wooded hills where the cattle fed by day. Model the grassy uplands where they fed by night. Show the trail that the cattle made. Make the banks at the drinking place. Make the thickets and show where the wolf hid. End of Chapter 7. This recording is in the public domain.